Okay, so now let's take a step back and start to combine some of these. I also have a couple other tools that I wanted to show you. These examples I'm actually pulling from a book, How to Cheat in Photoshop CS6 from Steve Kaplan. If you guys are interested in pursuing and sort of expanding your interest and knowledge in Photoshop, I would definitely recommend you checking that out. But so let's talk about some examples. So the first one I want you guys to open up is Wheel. So now this is essentially going to have us use the rotate tool again, except it's adding one simple thing. It's also going to have us add the transformation point as well, but we're going to add one simple thing here. So why don't you go to first of all, make sure that the wheel section is selected. I can't show you here; it's off screen, but just make sure you select that, and then go to Edit, Transform, Rotate, just like before. We're going to move our little transform point, and I didn't say this before, but when we got the transform point selected, or at least we're hovering over it, you can see the cursor changes a little bit. So that tells us that we've got the transformation point underneath us. So we'll do that. So now the transformation point's in that center of the axle. We're going to use this one spoke and use it to rotate it across and essentially create a series of images that recreates the wheel. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate. We're actually going to hold Shift down. Now holding Shift down is going to allow us to keep our increments within 15 degrees. And that's all it's going to allow us to do. So if you don't go 15 degrees, it's not going to seem like it's moving at all. But you got to go a little bit, and you can kind of see it sort of jumps as it moves. And we'll just take it to that first axle. And we're going to commit to that. Then we're going to go to Edit. Excuse me, sorry, ignore that. What I want you to do is Command, Option, Shift, T, and it's going to essentially recreate another wheel. Do it enough times, and essentially get it. So again, what you need to hit Command, Shift, Option, T will not only repeat the transformation, but also paste a copy of the individual wheel axle. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about this puppet warp image. So this is actually going to have us play with another tool. This is a pretty incredible thing that we can do here. Again, you got to make sure that your hand selected, the hand layer is selected. I'm going to have you go to Edit and then Puppet Warp. So what this puppet warp does is it essentially breaks up the image into a series of triangles. Now the mathematical term for this is called tessellation. So if you guys, for any gamers out there, anyone who's at the very least seen a video game character moving across the screen, it's always started off, it's created by essentially another series of triangles called polygons. These polygons are created for a 3D model, and by manipulating those polygons, you can make it look like he's walking, or she's running, or jumping, or fighting, or whatever. So you can do any kind of transformation, any kind of movement you want. Photoshop allows us to simulate that with this puppet warp tool. So you can see we start here with just a normal cursor, but if we click, what it's going to do is it's going to add a point here. And essentially what these are going to do is they're going to essentially two things. First of all, they're going to hold that position of this hand in place. And second of all, it gives us an axis point by which we can move. So the first thing we can do, so think we're sort of thumbtacking the hand here, is we got to create sort of like a base structure for us to move around. So we're going to add a couple thumbtacks, one right there. We'll add another one right here, so that sort of gets the base of the hand locked in. We'll add a couple in the knuckles here, so it locks in the hand. And then what I want you to do is we're going to add one in the tip of the thumb here. And now we've got 5 points here. Now what I want you to do is, as you can see when I'm hovering over a tack point, it lets me manipulate it. So I want you to just pull the thumb forward like that. As you can see, you can do a lot of movement. So that's great. But we can actually add a little bit more flexibility in here. Let's say we wanted to also put a thumb tack in, or a tack in there, so we can manipulate these independently. So now it's not going to look realistic when we first do this. It kind of looks awkward. But now we can essentially add additional bend in the thumb and have him do whatever we want him to do. We can do the same thing for the fingers over here. We'll add in a couple points. We'll bring this finger up. So essentially what we're doing is we're just manipulating the points, and Photoshop is figuring out, okay, what exactly do we want to do. Now you can see it's also moving the hands over here as well. That's just a little part of the action. So the limitation of this is not true 3D. So as you can see here, if this was, I'm going to actually delete that. Right click, delete. If this were true 3D, let's say I wanted to bring these fingers forward. It's kind of working, but at this point, we would, once we cross into these other points, we'd expect to see the back of the hand. Well, we don't have that information. So Photoshop can't really do a great job of it, and it just kind of muffles it up, as you can see in here. But still pretty impressive for what you can sort of do. Now, you can pause this video and just go on and torture this individual. I'm sure they will appreciate it greatly. Okay, so let's move on. We got these two CAF images. These CAF images basically have to do with a tool called content-aware filling. So what I want you to do is we're going to come over here. We're going to take the rectangular marquee tool and really quickly, really simply, we're going to select this first statue. We're going to edit, fill, bring that box on screen, and you can see here what it says, use content aware. So what that's going to do, that's going to replace what's in the background. Now the neat thing about this is that every time we do it, it's going to give us a new result. So if I do the same thing again, edit, fill, click OK, it's going to take a second, it's going to change it slightly. And we can essentially do the same thing over here. Let's say we wanted to, let's say we wanted to switch out these statues. Let's see what it gives us when we do that. Some very weird interpretations. Sorry for the thing. I've got some processes. Sorry for the screen change. I've got some stuff going in the background. So that's content-aware fill. Okay. So last image. You can bring up the CAF2.jpg image. And we're going to use the same basic idea here. It's just a little bit more complex than making one rectangular marquee. But so what we're going to do is I want you to go up here. We're going to go to View, Rulers. I'm not going to add them because I already have them, but make sure rulers are out here. We're going to go out. We're going to pull a guide for ourselves because essentially what we've got right here, and we can see this from the line, is this is probably the world's worst picture ever taken. Again, this is from Kaplan's book. I don't know if it was him or if it was someone else, but not a good picture. Maybe he took it on purpose for this whole point. But so now we're going to go to Edit. Sorry. I'm just going to pull layers over here so you can see it. You can see the background's locked right now. So it's not going to let us transform it until we unlock it. So the easiest way to go about doing this is to drag background to here. It's going to create a new background for us. We'll just delete that background. Okay, we'll put layers back where it was. Now we can go to Edit, Transform, Rotate. What we got to do here is we're going to try and make the horizon match this line. So we're going to just rotate the image. That line's pretty close. And you get it close and you say, all right, we're ready to go. We can commit to the transformation. But now we've got these areas up here. We got up here, up top, on the side, on the bottom, on this side. They just aren't, you know, they're not filled. They're transparent at this point. So what we can do, going back to that content-aware fill, we can use the Magic Wand tool. Magic Wand tool will let us select transparent pixels. We'll hold the Shift key down to add to the selection I made over here. down here, go up here to edit, go to fill. Again, we've got content aware selected, click OK, give it a second, select deselect, select deselect, I'm not sure why that didn't work. I'll move this guide out of the way, and pretty good image. You get some little faint lines in here. You can easily sort of go back and fix. You can just sort of like blur between them. Won't be too big of a problem. But without being able to tell, very interesting looking image. Now, one other tool that I wanted to show as well on this image is the content aware scaling that we've got as well. So with this this layer selected, I'm going to go to edit, content aware scale. And so what this is actually going to do is with normal scaling, everything in the image shrinks. But here what's going to happen, and you can start to see it in this area, particularly in this area between the rocks, and then look for the main structures. It's going to keep the main structures the same size as much as possible to the largest time possible. We're just going to scale this image down, and what you should see happening is a lot of the things end up keeping their same size. Some things get squished, but in this area, all of a sudden we got a lot less space between the rocks. So essentially what it's doing is moving big aspects of the image. This content-aware scaling does a lot for, and it's content-aware is kind of the direction that Photoshop is moving in. We can expect to see some new tools out. With CS6, there's content-aware moving. We can expect to see them roll out a number of different other tools. Up here you can see we can also even protect people in the image that did something in here even though we didn't have people. But it just is going to affect the algorithm in a particular kind of way. So we click on commit, and there we go. We can crop that if we want, and all of a sudden, well, let's do that really quick. Crop the image, about there, get it, image, crop, and there we go. Shrank image, and everything looks good.